Mama cat jumps out of the boat and into the water. So everybody's scrambling. They get Mama cat scooped out of the water and she runs. They're launching the boat, so they get in the boat after the cat dropped out. 6 kids. In the boat? In the boat. They all ended up in the house. Yep. 6 kids. We finally found home.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let me get this. Yeah, here we go. We'll call the meeting to order. This is City Commission meeting, Monday, January 22nd, 2024. It's 5:30 p.m. Would you please stand, for the invocation and the pledge. Heavenly Father, we ask that you watch over this group tonight, that you give us the wisdom and the knowledge to make good decisions for the city of Leesburg. We do this in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Moving forward, item 2, proclamations, we have none. Presentations, we have none. At this point, we'd like to have public comment. The section is reserved for members of the public to bring up matters of concern or opportunities for praise. Issues brought up will not be discussed in detail at this meeting. Issues will either be referred to the proper staff or will be scheduled for consideration at a future City Commission meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. And would you please give your name and your address when you come to the dais? Any comments? Please.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners. Evelyn Gould, 312 Nebraska Avenue, Leesburg, Florida. I'm here today actually with a good comment. I just wanted to thank you for a really nice event this weekend with the Martin Luther King Parade and the activities that we had with the Soul Fest. Everything was just amazing. There was lots of representation from different sororities. I felt that the police department represented very well with walking and talking to everyone and just greeting and thanking the people. The African Heritage Committee had a really nice display on their vehicles. It was just nice to see a lot of the bikers and some of the sororities being represented. The kids were excited. The Soul Fest had really good music. They were a little bit late, but once they got there, the dancing in the streets really started. It was really exciting for everyone. It was nice to see the camaraderie of vendors and different events happening on the weekend. So I just wanted to thank you for that. Very nice. Thank you.
Any other public comment? We'll move on to item 5, the consent agenda. Routine items are placed on the consent agenda to expedite the meeting. If the commissioner staff wish to discuss any item, the procedure is as follows. 1, pull the item or items from the consent agenda. 2, vote on remaining items with 1 roll call vote. And 3, discuss each pulled item and vote by roll call. Are there any items anyone would like to pull? I'd like to pull, let's see. That would be 5C10. 5C10.
Can I pull 5C9?
5C9. All right. Any other items? Okay, so with this, we'll get a motion to
Yeah, just
approve.
motion to approve all remaining items on consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. All right, someone please introduce item, let's see, 5C9.
I'll introduce 5C9 to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement to issue a special event permit for alcohol sales at Bike Fest 2024 and providing an effective date.
For approval.
Second.
Al, could you
Discussion.
give a little overview of what this is? And then I just have a few questions.
Yep, this is an agreement between the City of Leesburg and the Chamber of Commerce for providing alcohol services, or providing alcohol during Bike Fest. And just as a side note, the City Commission has withdrawn or set aside $500,000 from reserve cash in the general fund to do Bike Fest. Those expenditures don't include alcohol. When we set up that reserve account, we said we would come back to you with a recommendation on how to do alcohol. So this is our recommendation. I think the number one thing that at least myself and other people on the management team have heard is that the money from Bike Fest needs to stay local. Obviously, the biggest generator of revenues is alcohol sales. The hitch to that, though, however, is alcohol sales can't be used by a municipal corporation for the general fund. I think there probably is some discussion on using alcohol sales to fund the event, but there's clearly a delineation in statutes, as Grant has advised, that alcohol can't be used as a funder of the general fund. So what does that mean in English? So let's say at the end of the day, Bike Fest is a profit vehicle, and the profits are from alcohol. Therefore, those funds would have to be spent on not-for-profit organizations. So we're setting up Bike Fest to bifurcate kind of regular expenses and alcohol income. In doing so, our recommendation to you is to partner with the Chamber of Commerce for probably the following reasons. A, we're pretty much mirroring what we did with the partnership, or actually what the partnership did. And the partnership set up kind of two ways to sell alcohol. One was monitoring of alcohol as far as consumption goes, so that what's purchased and it measures up pretty close to what's sold through a formulaic approach. It's called an efficiency measure. So for example, rough numbers, we know a keg of beer has 80 cups, 80 12-ounce pours, and we know a bottle of Jack Daniels has 20 shots. So the part of this will be the chamber calculating what alcohol gets distributed to what point of sale. Point of sale is one of the booths, and so we'll be able to measure consumption, and then in days past, how the partnership paid the civic organizations that went into these points of sale would be they would get to collect the tip monies for the time that they manned the point of sales, and then they would get a bonus for efficiency. So if they had 100% efficiency, meaning they had a keg of beer and 80 cups were sold, and that matched 3 times 80, the money, and on a scale, then they would get more money for that. So this agreement talks about the chamber setting that up. This agreement talks about the chamber getting insurance. This agreement talks about the chamber organizing to bring in all the volunteer groups that will be in the point of sale. And then on the other side of the house, it also talks vaguely about the monitoring of the monies. So the chamber's ordered to collect all funds at each point of sale, and then the city periodically will go around and we'll collect the money as the chamber did. We are using another group to help us count, collect the money, and we think both of these processes are new to us, but they're not new to the chamber. So we kind of think about a year, we think, to get under our belt, to get all the accounting squared away. So essentially the agreement, it's pretty brief, but it outlines what we anticipate as chamber expenses and where we need to pay. I followed that up this afternoon with kind of just a rough estimate of what we thought chamber expenses would be. Well, bottom line, we thought probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $125,000 for their total expenses, which includes purchasing tent rentals, using the group to help with their efficiency formula, insurance, all sorts of other tent rental, equipment, purchasing of alcohol, and those type of things. Also sent out to you, I think on Friday, kind of a rough estimate of where we saw partnership expenses on alcohol in budget format. So the expense side is pretty similar to what the partnership did. So if you look at that and then the collections on alcohol sales, probably 19 is the best year, where they spent somewhere around $100,000 like we're about to do, with a profit margin total gross sales of alcohol around $400,000. Now that varied again. We gave you a 19, 20, 21, and a I think a 22 and a 23 pro forma. 23 was weak because we only had the one day event in April. 23 looked like it was getting back to about where we were in 19, but if you recall, we had the bad weather on Saturday. But they still had a pretty good alcohol sales as far as the expenses that we're seeing. So I think this agreement kind of just puts in the broad parameters of how this will work. And at the end of the day, for us, it gets the chamber, who has experience doing this. It keeps the money local, and then it helps us through kind of this first year, and then next year we'll reevaluate based on the feedback.
Where do we come up with the $50,000? How do we get that number?
I was headed that direction. So another thing this agreement does is it kind of sets us up to provide the chamber kind of a one-stop shopping for their funding from the city. Since I've been the city manager, the chamber has received funding kind of two ways: various events that we just flat out sponsor, like teacher appreciation, like golf tournament, some of the other stuff, and then we provide the chamber the $5,000 annually from the civic funding. So if you calculate up the money that the city gives to the chamber, it's roughly around 20 grand a year. We had two outliers on that because of the CARES money and the ARP, the American Recovery money. So the chamber, the LP, the Leesburg Partnership, and the arts, the years that we had CARES money and ARP money, we shared those with what I refer to as the big three equally. So I would throw those numbers out. But typically, the chamber receives about 20 grand in funding. So the concept would be, okay, chamber, the city moving forward post Bike Fest will not provide any more funding to the chamber, but instead they receive 50 grand, which is double kind of their efforts, if you will. So it's they cover their expenses of 20,000, and then they put in the organization work to put another 30 in their coffers. So they basically double down on their funding source, and they secure, hopefully in perpetuity, as long as we do Bike Fest, a funding source that helps the chamber out. And also helps us with the 501c3 status of the alcohol sales.
And just to clarify, so all the, I guess, customers or people that they're purchasing from will provide invoices to them, then they'll provide invoices to us, and we'll reimburse the chamber?
Yes.
I have a question or two. Because I asked about it when we voted to approve it. The revenue side, I think, was around 500. The expenditure was 500, so it was going to be more of a break-even status for the city to sponsor this. Wasn't there alcohol sales in that revenue side?
It was like 30 grand.
Okay, but so where's that money going now? Since it can't be counted towards the revenue, because the general fund's paying for this, right?
General fund is paying for the event as far as vendors, setup, bands, and those type of things. So I think I showed you a 500 in, 500 out.
Yes.
So we're short there 300.
300.
330. Yeah. The 30 on the alcohol sales.
So the whole event's only going to generate a profit of $30,000 in alcohol?
No, I think I can't tell you what the event's going to generate, Commissioner. Based on our review of the partnership books from 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23, I think there's margins there on both the general fund side, where we borrowed the $500,000 from ourselves, and then on the alcohol side, where I think we can cover our expenses. You'll note that there was 30 grand in there as a revenue for alcohol sales that went to expenses. So on the other side of the house, even though I had 30,000 in that $500,000, I'm sure we'll have 30,000 in a net sale after we make these expenses that will be able to be counted towards expenses on the $500,000 side. So, as I told you, I think last meeting or a couple meetings ago, I appreciate the leniency here. There's a lot of educated budget estimating that we're doing based on what we've seen before. So I feel comfortable that we're going to have our expenses covered, but we won't know until the event.
Are we taking out a weather policy or any kind of insurance policy if this rains?
I haven't talked to Travis about that yet, but we can certainly talk to Travis about that.
Do you know, because I asked about it when this got brought up, I thought we were trying to put this together on pretty short notice. You know how much money has been generated so far through sales and vendors and everything else?
I'll get that number for you. I don't know what it is right now.
Okay, and once the event goes off, how long will it take to get a turnaround on the financials on this event?
Without Jess, quicker than the partnership. My hope, I would, I'm guessing at this, but I think we should be able to turn it around in a month. We should know most of the expenses. We should have an accounting for it. I think we'll be able to do it fairly quickly, Commissioner.
Okay.
That's my goal. And at the end of the day, my goal is to be extremely transparent with where this goes. I think one of the benefits with the city doing it is that we'll be able to get those transparency issues done quicker. In the future, if this works out and everybody's happy with the product, what you'll see in fiscal year 25 is a division in the budget that lays out a Bike Fest budget. So every year, we'll be transparent, and it'll be a public document where we're going with money and what we're doing. But we really do need this first year under our belt to get a better accounting for it and to lay it out. Right now, we're just, like I say, we're just depending on the old LP numbers.
Okay, the reason I only voted to go along with it because it was a break-even status. I'm not really a big believer in spending taxpayer money to fund special events. I think special events ought to pay for itself for the majority of them. A few, yes, but something like this, we're talking about $5 million, it really should fund itself and not come out of the taxpayer money. So I am interested on the expenditures and revenues on this.
Understood.
And just to clarify, we're partnering with the chamber just because we can't do alcohol, correct? That's the.
No, I don't think that's we're partnering with the chamber because I think it's the best option. There's other options that we looked at. For example, one was to go out of and bring in a consultant or a contractor. That we thought how that process would have been is an outside contractor would come in who specializes in sales. They set up everything. They bring in the vendors. They purchase the alcohol. They bring in the people, and then we take a cut of those net revenues. The reason that we're opting away from that is twofold. One, the short notice and a procurement process that's needed to do that, and we didn't feel like we had the time to do that. And then B, which is A, transparency in making sure that we control the monies collected, and B, making sure that the money stays local. Making sure the money stays local is the biggest effect of why we're recommending to go with the chamber.
Any other questions?
I'll just add, I'll say this cautiously optimistic, but in the best of years, the partnership made good money on this event. And I remember there was a newspaper, they put it in the newspaper. They paid one year $170,000 to local nonprofit groups on top of their profit. So no pressure there, Al. But
no, I mean,
but I'm saying it's good for the community, and I do think we'll make money on it. In some
look, at the end of the day, your city manager squeezed here pretty tight. He recommended a $500,000 expenditure to get this deal done from the general fund, hoping that we're going to cover the bases. We're farming out the alcohol sales. Hopefully, that all covers each other. So this is a new one for me. I've raised and lowered 1 million electric rates 1,000 times, but I've never overseen a Bike Fest party. So I feel comfortable that we have our bases covered, and you can be rest assured that we'll calculate it and make sure it is. And then I'll just, on that note, Commissioner Peterson, the 19 is probably the best numbers that the partnership revealed, which I sent to the commission again on Friday. And I mean, roughly, the net on alcohol sales minus beverage purchases was in excess of $300,000, and then I think the net at the bottom line was somewhere around $200,000 for the LP in 19. So based on 19 type of performance, I feel comfortable that our exposure is going to be minimum to none to break even and maybe be a little bit in the black. So we'll be counting and watching.
My last comment, I just want to be cautious. I know we talked about 6 or 7 bars. I wouldn't go anything over that with 12 downtown businesses. That'll be counting on this as revenue. So thank you.
Any other comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Cutnell?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Someone please introduce, is that 6C10?
Introduced and asked to be read by title only.
5C10, sorry.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the reimbursement of legal expenses in the amount of $420 to Commissioner Allison Berry regarding an ethics complaint and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Yeah, I asked for this to be pulled simply because I wanted to get it out in the light. When I first saw this, I immediately called Al to find out about ethics complaints, and we have not had any. Is that correct, Al? You know,
I would. The more accurate statement is a city commissioner, since I've been your manager, has not received an ethics complaint.
right. So this is a relatively new thing, and I just wanted to clearly state my position on it. If in the packet, the page 209 perfectly states that there was no findings by the state, and therefore, because there were no findings, I want to make sure, I think we need to compensate our commissioner. In the future, should there be findings on an issue, I would not support paying the attorney fees. So I just wanted to kind of make that clear. I didn't know how you guys felt about it.
I will.
But I
stand with
just
that.
wanted to go on record as that's how I feel about it. So, any other comments? Do we have a comment from the public?
Yes. Hi, good evening. This is Dr. Erica Jasper. I am the one who filed the ethics complaint. As you can see, I have a packet here for each one of you all to take a look at. And the reason for my complaint, within the packet, it includes the housing documents from the old initial application, and then there was one that was modified. I initially filed a complaint. On September 26th, I received a call from Commissioner Berry. Initially, she was irate and upset about me passing out material within the community, and I briefly told her, let me call you back, I'm at work. And she was aggressively calling me back while I was at work trying to discuss, and she questioned my authority, who gave me the authority to pass these packets out, and then she later on threatened me and told me to no longer pass out information within the community, District 1. I live in District 1. I am a citizen of District 1. I'm a taxpayer in District 1, and at the time I was on the CRA board, so I was doing my due diligence to bring awareness of the program to the citizens to make sure that they qualify for this program, which was her STAR program, trying to support it, trying to be supportive of the citizens here in Leesburg. So I filed that because we're not supposed to talk or have conversations outside of the CRA board concerning any matters regarding CRA agenda items or anything. And I asked her, let me call you back. Once again, she was aggressive and she threatened me, and that's why I initially filed the complaint. And then also, too, as you can see in your packet, you will see the call log that shows the time and date, and it will also show you the changes that were made in the application process that did not come back to the CRA. So it was a violation twice within the old and the new. And I initially got the packet that the commissioners approved off the city website on June the 12th, 2003, page 585, that you all approved to disperse throughout the community. And then they came back. It was a lien. I know Commissioner Peterson, you wanted a lien and had that information. And then later, the new packet, which is now distributed out in the community, it imposes a 10% fee, I think it is, and now there's a 5-year commitment. So all those changes were done without it coming back to the CRA board for approval. And I know for a fact, because I sit on the CRA board, even though she was exonerated, that doesn't excuse the fact that she was aggressive. She threatened me, and I took it upon myself to file those complaints because I knew it was unethical to make those changes to the packet without prior approval from the CRA board.
I understand. I read the complaint. All that information was in the complaint, but I will read what it says, and
Yes.
this is from the Ethics Board.
Yes.
It says the allegations in paragraphs 3 through 5 do not support an investigation under Section 112.3136 Florida statutes because the complaint does not substantially allege in a factual, non-conclusatory manner that the respondent corruptly used or attempted to use her public position or resources within her public trust, or that she corruptly performed her official duties in order to benefit herself or another person. I can go on, but I think that is the position of the Ethics Board, so that's where it lays, and That's
fine.
our
But I just
position.
wanted to give my why.
I understand your position.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just to add before you vote on this matter, and just to make sure the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, Dr. Jasper mentioned that the CRA board should have approved the modification. That's not correct. And so let me delineate why that is. The home program, when you initially did it and then you revised it to contemplate inspections, terms, the liens, all that kind of stuff, as we got into it, we found there were some places we needed to nip and tuck. The difference is the home program is a city-wide program. It's a program that the commission approved to blanket the entire city. It is funded in fiscal year 24 from the CRA. That's the difference. So the program is of the commission to cover the whole community. It is then only funded by the CRA. So it's a citywide program. Where it would be changed and modified is by the city commission. Where it's orchestrated as far as a funding level, then that would be the CRA or the various CRAs or the general fund, wherever you so choose to fund it in the future. So it was modified correctly.
All right. Any other comment? Roll call.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman.
Yes.
Mayor Burry.
Yes. We'll now move on to, let's see, let me get back. Find my spot here. Okay, we'll move on to public hearings, non-routine items. Would someone please introduce 6A1?
6A1 to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 135 plus minus acres from City of Leesburg RE1 Estate Density Residential to City of Leesburg PUD Planned Unit Development to allow for single-family residential development for property generally located south of Florida Turnpike and east of County Road 33, lying sections 27 and 34, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Grant, do you need any swearing in?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, we will need to swear in for this one. All right, so if city staff and members of the audience would please stand and raise your right hand so you can be sworn in, and this will be for item 6A or 6B. If anybody plans to say anything, please stand and raise your right hand so you can be sworn in. All right. Do you swear or affirm that all testimony you'll give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you all. Mr. Mayor.
All righty. Dan, would you please give us an overview?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, staff. Dan Miller, Planning and Zoning. This is the second reading for the PUD request for Tierra Vista Plan Unit Development Zoning, consisting of approximately 135 acres. It's rezoning only, no annexation or comp plan. The request is to go from City RE1 Estate Density Residential to PUD Planned Unit Development. It's generally located just south of the Turnpike on the east side from County Road 33. This is just immediately north of the Battaglia subdivision that was approved by the City Commission a few months ago. Specific request would be to allow 371 detached single-family homes on 135 acres, which would give a gross density of 2.74 units per acre. Under the PUD zoning, it's single-family residential only, no townhouses, apartments, duplex, triplex, anything, no commercial, just single-family. A minimum 276 50-foot lots with 1,600 minimum square house size, 1,600 square feet minimum house size, and 95 60-foot lots with 1,700 house size minimum. All lots are going to have the 25-foot setbacks, gutter requirements, dark sky lighting, 2 trees in each yard. There are architectural standards, 2-car garages, pretty standard PUD. I believe is Mr. Ben Snyder from Hanover Homes is here to answer any additional questions. Thank you, sir.
Any questions for Dan? Mr. Snyder?
Good evening, Commissioners. Ben Snyder, Hanover Land Company, for the record. We have a presentation. The only reason for the presentation is because we shifted a couple of lots around and a pond around with some updated geotech data that we got between the first and second reading. So happy to flip through it and show you the revised plan. Let's see. Andrew McCowan, our planner, y'all have seen this a few times. That's the location. Everybody knows, about it. Andrew's running late, which is why I'm doing this and you're stuck with me and not him. The plan is substantially similar. It's 60 foot around the outside, 50 foot on the inside, just like we did with Battaglia. We just moved a retention pond around, which caused us to shift some lots around. That's the gist of it.
We did have some questions, or at least I did, about noise abatement on this. Are we including anything?
You need them
For the, yes. So the residents.
There's a 50-foot buffer along the turnpike. I'm trying to remember if we talked about anything else, Mr. Mayor. Was there any additional plantings or anything like that? We can add if you would like. That's not a problem.
Just, we want to make sure that we want residents that are going to be Leesburg residents to be aware that the city of Leesburg is of the position that you're buying land next to the turnpike, and therefore we're not responsible for add sound barrier walls or.
We can add in wording into the PUD.
Yes.
We could add a disclosure in the CCNR.
A disclosure?
A disclosure so that, when they sign, I just don't want 10 years from now a group here coming to the commission saying, you got to do something about our noise. You know what you're buying.
Thank you. We will add that in.
If that's okay.
That's a great point.
I had a quick question, too. I had mentioned it, Dan, and I know the Village Palms is doing it. Any future ponds, or is there a way we could put in the PUD? They have some fountains to help with aesthetics, but also the health and mosquitoes and algae. I know Village Palms did that.
We've had some conversation in regard to that. It depends on the design. So staff is in favor of having each of these ponds, if they're wet ponds, to be aerated as Commissioner Reisman has described. We don't always know if they're going to be wet or dry until the engineering is done. So if it would please the commission, we'll just put some wording in that wet ponds must be aerated, and that would take care of that issue if that will work.
Any other comments for the petitioner? Thanks, Ben.
And one second, Ben. We were talking about a spray-up fountain type of decorative, correct? Okay, thank you.
Kind of like then at Pat Thomas, is that same?
Got it.
General idea.
Yes, sir.
And can we make that for all future PUDs as well?
Yes, sir. We will do that. Thank you.
Do we have any public comment regarding this? Any comments from the commissioners? Any other? Roll call.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Bray?
Yes. We'll move on to item 6. Let's see, this is 6B, first reading of ordinances. Someone please introduce 6B1.
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, adding a PDO, Planned Development Overlay, with a waiver from Section 25-282, parentheses A, parentheses 1, PDO 5-acre minimum to the existing C1 neighborhood commercial zoning on approximately 0.34 plus minus acres to allow for a triplex use on a property generally located north of West Main Street and west of Harold Street, lying in Section 28, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Does anyone have questions for Dan on this? It'll lay over, as it's a first reading. February 12th is when we'll have a second reading on this. No questions for Dan? Thank you. So So on 6B2, that has been pulled from the agenda. That was in regards to the Banning Ranch property being annexed. It already has been annexed, so we do not need to go through that. So would someone please introduce 6B3?
I'll introduce 6B3 to be read by title only.
It's actually 3 and 4.
3 and 4 to be read by title
Yes.
only.
Thank you.
6B3, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the City of Leesburg, changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing 464 plus minus acres from City of Leesburg neighborhood mixed use to City of Leesburg estate residential for a property generally located west of County Road 33, south of Florida's Turnpike, and east of County Road 48. Lying in sections 32 and 33, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date. 6B4, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 464 plus minus acres from City of Leesburg PUD to City of Leesburg PUD planned unit development to allow for residential subdivision for property generally located west of County Road 33, south of Florida's Turnpike, and east of County Road 48, lying in sections 32 and 33, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Let's have Dan give us a little information, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a request for a large-scale comp plan and rezoning on 464 acres. It's generally located on the west side of County Road 33, south of the Florida Turnpike, and east of County Road 48. Overall, the proposal, again, is 464 acres, mostly undeveloped. The comp plan request is a large scale, so it would be transmitted from this meeting to the Department of Commerce, going from neighborhood mixed use to estate residential. Both of those allow for 4 units per acre max, so there's no real change there. And then the rezoning would go from planned unit development to planned unit development. The specific request is for the PUD at 530 detached single-family lots, which would render a density of about 1.15 gross units per acre. There's a significant amount of wetland and open space preserved here. All detached single-family residences. No industrial sales, tattoo, none of those kind of things. It's strictly single-family. There is a mix of 50, 60, and 70-foot lots in this subdivision. 358 would be 50, 118 lots would be 60, and a minimum of 53 would be 70s, and generally those are designed so that the larger lots are on the exterior of the property lines. Again, the standard PUD requirements of the 25-foot setbacks, gutters for any lot that has less than a 7.5-foot setback, the dark sky, 2 trees in each yard, architectural standards, and 2-car garages. There's some additional guest parking in some of the residential areas. They're well over the 35% open space, and there'll be 2 access points within this property because it is, again, 500 plus units. One is contiguous to the property to the west, and one is contiguous to the property to the east. And then about 2.5 acres of recreational requirements, including the dog park, fence, playground, other recreational amenities that are shown in the Exhibit C, the conceptual plan. Overall, what we believe will happen down at this property is there is currently a Banning Ranch property, phase 1 and 2. That was, I believe, 278 units. This one would be phase 3 and 4, which is 530. And I believe, if my math is correct, somewhere around 808 units total. The previous Banning Ranch project was closer to 16 or 1,900 units. It was much bigger, much more dense in terms of the number of units. So this actually reduces. When the next 2 properties to the west, which we eventually believe will come in, this will create an ability to connect between County Road 33 and 48. That's good for access and transportation, but it's also important for our utilities for the water to flow in a circular path rather than being stopped. So we have some advantages, but that depends upon whether or not those other two properties to the west come in, and we've already been having early discussions on those. Nothing in writing yet. So beyond that, I believe Mr. Mike Rankin is here from Land Planning Group of Mount Dora, and I'm ready to answer any questions.
Yeah, so one question. The villages, we annex villages of West Lakes off of 48.
Yes, sir.
So as we go across Banning Ranch towards 48.
Yes, sir.
Where are the village are they south of that or are they north of that?
I believe they're directly across the road.
Yeah, they're
right.
They're on ours. I thought they were on our side.
We're on the east side of 48, and the villages is on the west. And eventually, the way of transportation, if you're thinking about the connection points.
Yeah, just wanted to make.
Yeah, generally, because it's county road, both of those applicants would be working with Lake County. Usually, it's whoever gets there first decides where the access point goes.
Okay.
And at this point, we don't know who will be there first.
I understand. Okay. Is the petitioner here this evening, or?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the Commission, staff, and audience. For the record, Michael Rankin, LPG Land Planning Group, serving as the representative for the applicant. As this is first read, I would yield my time until the second read unless you have specific questions.
Any questions for the petitioner? Okay, thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Do we have any public comment?
Hello, my name is Nadia Crispin, 2801 Hammock Grove Road, Groveland, Florida. We live right next to the subject property. My community does not want a development. We've spoken to the previous owner. He did not want it to be developed. In general, we had an environmentalist come down the road who was trying to make way into Banning Ranch. He was hired to investigate the property, and he said to us, this property is about 40% wetland. I'm going to tell them, avoid this property. Do not build here. And I mentioned to him, we have concern about flooding. We have water connected to this property that comes around to us, and he said flooding is a concern. Besides that, it's going to be connecting to County Road 33, as they mentioned, 530 single-family homes, so there's probably going to be more than 530 residents if it is built. County Road 33 has exponentially had more fatal car crashes every single year. Last year alone, there was 11 fatal car crashes, and there was 3 people dead in the last one. And as the County Commissioner said last meeting, we don't have control over County Road 33. That's the county. So this would be approving of a property knowing that there's going to be potentially thousands more cars on it, exponentially growing the chances of more fatalities, and on top of the regular traffic. And I don't think that's fair to anyone right now. None of us want this. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other sworn members? That's everybody? Okay. All right, so we need a motion for transmittal on this item. Which the motion for transmittal, we have to send it to the state one way or another because of the size, and therefore we want to do that to give the petitioner a fair chance. So
I'll make a motion to transmit this to the state.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. All right, so do we have a date of?
March 11th.
Okay, so the second reading will occur March 11?
Ish.
Ish, yeah, depending on the state.
We'll advertise
transmittal.
the second public hearing.
All right, good deal. All right, and we'll lay over until then. Would someone please introduce items, let's see, 6B, 5, 6 and 7.
I'll introduce 6B5, 6, and 7, and to be read by title only.
Excuse me. 6B5, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg annexing certain real property consisting of approximately 15.34 plus minus acres, being generally located east of Montclair Road and south of Colonial Street, lying in Section 21, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida. Providing that said property so annexed shall be liable for its proportionate share of the existing and future indebtedness of said city. Providing that such annexed property shall be subject to all laws and ordinances of said city as if all such territory had been a part of the City of Leesburg at the time of passage and approval of said laws and ordinances. Providing that such annexed territory shall be placed in City Commission District 2 and providing an effective date. 6B6, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the City of Leesburg, changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing 15.34 plus minus acres from Lake County urban high density to City of Leesburg low density residential for a property generally located east of Montclair Road and south of Colonial Street, lying in Section 21, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date. 6B7, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 15.34 plus minus acres from Lake County R6 Urban Residential District to City of Leesburg PUD Planned Unit Development to allow for residential uses for a property generally located east of Montclair Road and south of Colonial Street, lying in Section 21, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
Yeah, please come up, Dan. Give us an overview, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is River Fox Commons. This is an annexation, small-scale comp plan and rezoning for approximately 15.34 acres. It's generally located east of Montclair Road and south of Colonial Street at the end of Gregory, which is off Montclair Road. The overall proposal would take it from Lake County urban high density to City of Leesburg low density. Rezoning would go from Lake County R6 urban residential to City of Leesburg PUD. This would allow for a 92-unit apartment complex, which is being brought to us as a senior living complex. Under the density allowed in Lake County right now, it's 6 units per acre. Under the density showing on this PUD, it's 5.99, which is 6. So we're creating the same level of density, but in 2 buildings instead of buildings spread out across the entire property. It is a standard planned development. Anything not specifically called out in the permitted uses is not permitted. Again, the internet cafes, tattoo, those kind of things, townhomes, it's an apartment complex, a multifamily complex. It will include 25-foot perimeter buffers, more than 35% open space. There's a 100-foot setback on the front and on each side and 50 on the rear. The sizes of the apartments, they're planning on 1, 2, and 3 bedroom, which would equate to 700, 800, and 900 square feet, which is what we've used, I believe, previously, Mr. Mayor, in our apartment complexes. There's a 6-foot PVC fence required along the north, south, and east. There was an additional work with Lake County to secure an additional access point to the north. It's not required by code, but they went ahead and asked for that, which would go as an emergency access that meets Colonial Street. All the rest is standard PUD language. If you look at the site plan on this one, it appears that when the property will develop someday, you either have the choice of doing straight single-family residential, which covers all the property, or concentrating it in these 2 buildings and having the larger open space and wooded areas with the fence. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, it also has some significant wetlands on it.
Some significant wetlands in there that are being preserved. Yes, sir, that's correct.
I also I took the opportunity to go out and drive there, turning off of Main Street onto Montclair, and I wasn't sure about the suspension of my car after riding on that road and then turning onto Gregory. Those are county roads. I recognize they're not kept by Leesburg, but they are not sufficient
Yes.
for this kind of project.
Within our PUDs, we have worded it to support whatever Lake County requires on the roads. And if Lake County says you're going to have to upgrade the road, part of the road, put in a turn lane, a signal, a stop sign, anything that Lake County does, we've designed it so that we're automatically backing up what they're saying, because it is Lake County's roads, and all of the everyone in the county pays for roads. Okay, no matter what city you live in, and what we're trying to do is be a strong supporter of any roadway improvements that Lake County can require, and we're more than willing to make a call.
Yeah, do we know, we don't know whether Lake County will require a upgrade on Gregory?
I do not know at this point. I can try to find out tomorrow, if you'd like.
I would think that, okay. I mean, I would urge you guys to ride out there and take a look at it.
Is it paved?
It's paved.
Okay.
Well, it's paved several times. lots of repaving and potholes.
That's correct.
It's Montclair especially is.
That's correct.
Well, wouldn't the developer want to improve the road in some form or fashion?
They don't want to spend any more money than they have to.
I understand
if
that.
If the county requires it, they will do it.
Okay, thank you. That helped.
Yes, sir.
So I'd like to, before I could render any kind of opinion, I just see that as pretty important for.
I'll contact them again. I don't have anything specific from them at this time.
Dan, is this market rent apartments or are these subsidized?
I don't know, because we're not allowed to.
No right or wrong answer. I was just curious.
On that, but it's a senior living,
right?
And by implying that a senior living, that could be a world, or that could be market rent, that could be government assistance, that could be anything. Okay. And the staff has no ability to regulate that.
Okay, thank you.
But the PUD does regulate that there will be no single family.
Yes.
There will be no duplexes, no triplexes, no townhomes. That the only thing we're approving is some type of an apartment.
That is correct.
Complex.
And because it's being brought to us as a senior living, that would generally reduce the number of trips, because the seniors tend to drive a little bit less. Instead of your standard 9.6 or whatever trips per day, that does cut down on the number of trips that leave a destination like that.
Any other questions for Dan? Do we know date certain on this one?
February 12th.
February 12th?
26. 26.
I'm sorry.
Because I need the 30 days for the annexation.
So we'll have a second reading on February 26th. What's that? Is the developer is here? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that.
Thank you, sir.
26.
Mayor, Councilman, staff, thank you very much. My name is Steve Bean with Soho Housing Partners and part of the PACES Foundation. We are the developers. I did want to make a couple corrections because we have made some efforts to go beyond Gregory. We have an easement. The landowner, I'm directionally challenged right now, but I think it's to the east. Is it west off of Colonial? So help me there. Thank you very much.
Colonial will be north of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, then it's north. So the land, we cut an agreement with the landowner there to have an access easement onto Colonial. So we would.
So that would go across the trail?
No, it wouldn't go across the trail. I think we dead end before the trail arrives there. Yeah, right. Yeah, the trail's across. Yeah. So it would not be across the trail. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'd not be across the trail. So we've added an extra access point, understanding the circumstances with the road at Gregory. We would be amenable if a Gregory access, even if it had to be sort of an emergency access of some type. Sometimes we like to have an ingress, egress on two sides for emergency purposes, that if we had to have something there, we would improve the road where necessary. I wanted to make that clear. Again, I think the staff did a wonderful job. It is going to be for seniors. Only 1s and 2 bedrooms. We do several senior properties across the Southeast and have 6 in the state of Florida. Communities like Pensacola, Panama City, similar communities to Leesburg. And in all cases, the average household in those properties are the age aggregate, median age is probably around 72 is what we've experienced. Typically, vehicular traffic is for necessities that are, amongst the household. So you don't see the average traffic that we see in certainly a multifamily. Our desire is to blend with the neighborhood. We tried to make this a very low density property. 92 units on 15.34 acres is a extremely low density property. We're going to maintain enormous buffers, natural buffers. It's a very tree-lined property, so we're trying to be as friendly as possible to our neighbors and good stewards to the community, as we always strive to be. So, I think trying to gain that access way was our attempt to make sure that, in case that there was any sort of pushback or concerns on Gregory or Deborah or any of those, that we would have a third point that would be a little more possibly amenable, less obstructions there, where we could create the road and create sort of ingress egress at that point. So
you could have access at Deborah?
That's an alternative, a thought, but we've decided that we'd like to rather go with the Colonial if I believe County DOT had suggested that would be their desired location for the access point, because that that's a feeder road, and it's a little more easier to traverse in and out of.
Sure.
So we just want to pass that along. Yeah, no problem.
We'll get with Lake County and see and get a little more in depth on it. There is a site plan in there that shows, in the packet, that shows how the layout is pushed up more or less to the north side of the property. So there's a tremendous amount of savings here, is the point for.
Right. Yeah, we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? As I said, this will lay over, what did we say, the 26th, February 26th?
Yes, sir.
All right. At this point, we'll move on to non-routine items, which we have none. Informational reports, we have none. City attorney items.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I've got one item this evening. The special magistrate has made a recommendation in the Sunnyside Cenizo Ventures case against the city. As a result of that recommendation, I'm requesting tonight a closed session meeting on behalf of the city's attorneys who are representing you in that case because of my conflict to occur on February 12th following the regularly scheduled City Commission meeting. And that would be with the attorneys from Briones plus Briones to discuss the settlement negotiations and strategy session related to the litigation expenditures coming on the heels of that recommendation from the special magistrate. So if that would work for everybody on the commission, like I said, I would just request that everybody participate in that meeting with, I believe Mark and Stephanie Briones will probably attend that.
February 12th, is that good with everybody?
Post-meeting.
Post-meeting,
yes, sir.
After the city commission meeting.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
That's fine with me. Everybody, by consensus, we're good with that.
Okay, all right, very good. That's the only report I have this evening. Thank you all.
City manager items.
Grant, will you get with Briones, or do you want me to send an email just to confirm the 12th?
I'm sorry?
Will you get with Briones, or?
Yeah, I'll reach out to Stephanie about that. Yes, sir.
Just one real quick matter, but it's a bunch. Last couple weeks, I've been sending out some various emails to the commission, so make sure you guys read that. Most of the issues you're already up to speed on. There's a bunch of stuff in there you discussed from Bike Fest. Sent out an update about Pine Street. Sent out an update on Bill 1277. So the state legislature's back again at the utilities. And by the way, 1277 now does have a Senate sponsor, I understand. There's a really good memo I sent maybe 2 weeks ago from our utility rating companies. It really talked very, very good and very positive about our utility management and the re-rating of our water, sewer, gas bonds. There's an email in there too to get you up to speed on the city manager evaluation process, which the commission wanted to do in August, and then also Grant just mentioned the Sunnyside issue. So the recommended order is in that email. It'll give you the details from the order. It's still covered by sunshine, so I won't say out loud what that stuff is, but it's sitting in your mailbox and the order's in there. My first sentence pretty much sums it up. So those are all my matters.
I know the city hired an attorney lobbyist on our behalf, I believe, on the
Yes.
on the utilities last year. I assume you're doing that again.
We do still have them on retainer, correct.
And my question is, FMPA, are they doing equal or more this year in their lobbying efforts?
FMPA really lobbies and stays up to speed on it really through Jody Finkel, the general counsel. Most of our lobbying efforts comes out of FMEA, and yeah, we're back at it again, just like last year. So there's constant feedback with Ryan Matthews, and so we're back at it.
Thank you. Yeah. And at the FMPA meeting, just for a clarification, there is a companion Senate bill again now.
Right.
Before it was just a House bill.
Okay.
So.
Okay. No, thank you.
Roll call.
Commissioner Eastman?
Nothing this evening.
Commissioner Connell?
Nothing. No, you switched it around on me.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes, I have two things I'd like to give kudos to. One to the Bob, is it Tillmany's group with Don, Corey Proctor, and Kevin Wogelmont. I just want to say kudos to them for a great job. They were there carrying out a duty at one of the residents, and there were great reviews from behind them and saying they went beyond the call of duty. And I'd also like to give a shout to kudos to Chief Mara's group at Station 62 for their prompt response and their ability to stand and be there for a concern that we had this week. And I just wanted to say thank you to them.
Commissioner Peterson?
Nothing tonight.
Mayor Curry?
Yeah, just a couple of things. Wanted to thank everybody for those that came and went to the Martin Luther King parade. We had a nice group, had a good time. And I especially wanted to thank the city of Leesburg, everybody involved with the ceremony yesterday. Yesterday, 80 years to the day that Staff Sergeant Hall, a native Leesburg resident, was shot down and killed over France, and his body went missing for about 79 years. They finally identified the body, and they brought him home yesterday. Many people were on Facebook wondering why the jets were flying over. That was part of that ceremony. They had roughly, Al, 300 people, wouldn't you guess? At least.
Good crowd.
It was a big crowd, and we brought him home well. So I just was real pleased with the showing from the city. And that's all I have tonight. Motion to adjourn.
Adjournment.
Second. We're done.